The monitor shrieked, a flatline slicing through the hushed tension of Olympus Medical's elite trauma bay. 16-year-old Mateo Ramirez, a boy with vibrant dreams and a mother clinging to every breath, convulsed, his eyes rolling back as his internal bleeding accelerated. A desperate gasp escaped his mother's lips, echoing the rising panic among the world-renowned surgeons. Dr. Al-Hashemi barked orders, his face a mask of grim determination, but even his authority couldn't stop the inevitable. Rookie nurse Naledi Khumalo stood apart, her quiet presence almost invisible amidst the chaos. Her gaze, however, was anything but passive. It swept over Mateo's pale, struggling form, then flickered to the frantic, ineffectual movements of the medical team. A subtle tightening around her jaw, a nearly imperceptible clench of her fists, betrayed a deeper understanding, a dangerous resolve simmering beneath her outwardly calm, almost dismissive demeanor. This boy was slipping away, but Naledi knew a way. She just wasn't sure if she could do it. The hushed tension of Olympus Medical's elite trauma bay was now a crucible of frustrated intellect. Dr. Al-Hashemi, a man whose reputation preceded him into every room, surveyed the monitors with a furrowed brow, his voice a low rumble of deliberation. The hemorrhage is too diffuse for immediate surgical intervention without significant risk of further damage. We need to stabilize his hemodynamics first, then explore minimally invasive embolization. Dr. Katarina Pavlova, a senior resident whose sharp intelligence was often overshadowed by her sharper tongue, nodded in agreement. A cautious approach is paramount, Chief. We risk precipitating a cascade if we move too quickly. Their words, heavy with medical jargon and measured logic, painted a picture of careful, deliberate inaction. But to Naledi, watching Mateo's fading color, it sounded like a death sentence drawn out in slow motion. Mateo's mother sobbed quietly in the corner, her fragile hope visibly eroding with each passing minute. The beeping of the cardiac monitor, a steady rhythm a moment ago, began to quicken, then stammer, a frantic, irregular drumbeat against the silence. Naledi's gaze fixed on the boy, her mind racing through protocols that were anything but conventional. She saw the precise location of the internal pressure, the subtle rigidity that spoke of a rapidly expanding hematoma. Her hands twitched, and phantom memory of urgent, life-saving maneuvers. "Excuse me, doctor," Naledi murmured, her voice barely audible above the rising pitch of the alarms. She took a hesitant step forward. Perhaps, a more targeted pressure application. Superior to the iliac crest, aiming for. Dr. Santiago Morales, the head of nursing, a man whose starched uniform seemed to embody the rigidity of Olympus's hierarchy, cut her off with a swift, dismissive hand gesture. "Nurse Khumalo, you are here to assist, not to advise. Dr. Al-Hashemi's team has this in hand." His tone was not unkind, but it was absolute, a firm wall of protocol. Dr. Pavlova glanced at Naledi, a flicker of irritation in her eyes. "With all due respect, nurse, this is not a field clinic. We operate with precision and established procedure here, not guesswork." The thinly veiled contempt stung, a direct blow to Naledi's quiet competence. She felt her face flush, but her eyes never left Mateo. Al-Hashemi, engrossed in the monitors, barely registered the exchange, simply waving a hand for Naledi to resume her position. "Focus, everyone. We're losing time." The irony was a bitter taste in Naledi's mouth. They were losing time, and she saw it slipping away, while they debated the minutiae of conventional options. Mateo's breath hitched, a thin, rattling sound. His mother's scream tore through the room as his eyes rolled back, his body going limp. The monitor flatlined, a long, mournful wail. A cold dread seized Naledi. They were debating. He was dying. The carefully constructed walls of Olympus Medical, built on reputation and meticulous procedure, were collapsing around a dying child, and she, the rookie, the outsider, the invisible nurse, knew a way to save him. The ache to act became an unbearable pressure, a silent scream building behind her quiet facade. Protocol versus instinct. The boy's life hung in the balance, a thread about to snap. The flatline shrieked, a raw, piercing sound that stripped away the sterile calm of Olympus. Mateo's mother, Ms. Ramirez, crumpled to the floor, her wail a primal counterpoint to the machine's mechanical lament. Dr. Al-Hashemi, for the first time, looked truly unmoored, his meticulous composure cracking. Defibrillator. Get a crash cart, he barked, his voice laced with uncharacteristic desperation. Dr. Pavlova scrambled, her usual efficiency replaced by a frantic clumsiness. Dr. Morales, rigid with protocol, stood by the doorway, his face a mask of horrified disbelief, as if the sacred order of his unit was personally affronted by a patient daring to die. Mateo's skin had turned a waxy, bluish white. His lips, previously pale, now held the purplish hue of oxygen deprivation. The internal hemorrhage, Naledi knew with a chilling certainty, had escalated. His heart was faltering not just from blood loss, but from the crushing pressure building within his chest, a dam about to burst. As the team swarmed him with the defibrillator paddles, a surge of adrenaline momentarily restarting his heart into a weak, erratic beat, Naledi's mind raced. They were treating the symptom, not the cause. The electrical shock was a momentary reprieve, a flicker of life that would soon be extinguished if the underlying issue wasn't addressed. His diaphragm, the pressure, Naledi murmured, almost to herself, her eyes locked on the faint, almost imperceptible rise and fall of Mateo's chest, trying to gauge the internal damage. Her military training screamed at her, identify the primary threat, stabilize, then treat. They were operating backwards, losing precious seconds with every conventional, yet ultimately insufficient, intervention. Dr. Morales, overhearing her, snapped, Nurse Khumalo, you are to assist Dr. Pavlova. Do not speculate. His voice was sharp, a reprimand cutting through the escalating chaos. Naledi flinched but didn't look away from Mateo. She knew they were trying their best, but their best was failing him. She saw the subtle, telling signs that indicated a critical, rapidly worsening internal hematoma pressing against his vital organs, a silent killer expanding with every precious pump of his failing heart. Al-Hashemi gritted his teeth, wiping sweat from his brow. We need to stabilize his vitals before we can even think about further imaging. Get another 4-line in. He was grasping at straws, following the flowchart even as the patient deviated wildly from the expected path. Mateo's heart monitor began to skip, then plunged into a ragged, disorganized rhythm. His eyes fluttered open, wide and terrified, finding his mother on the floor before clouding over again. A soft, gurgling sound escaped his lips, a sound Naledi instantly recognized as ominous, the sound of his lungs struggling against the mounting internal pressure. The air thickened with unspoken fear. Ms. Ramirez's whimpers grew louder, punctuated by choked pleas for her son. The doctors, usually beacons of calm, were now a tableau of panic and frustration, their expert hands moving with a desperate, almost uncontrolled urgency. Naledi's heart pounded, a drumbeat of alarm. The boy was slipping away, right before their eyes, because they couldn't see past the pristine surgical suite to the messy, brutal reality of a body in extreme crisis. The ache to act became an all-consuming fire. There was no more time for debate. No more time for procedure. The boy's life was not a debate. He needed something now. Isn't it fascinating how often the most impactful actions come from the quietest corners, from those who see solutions beyond the established rules? As Mateo's life hung by a thread, Naledi, our quiet rookie nurse, defied every protocol. With an electrifying, precise series of forceful percussive taps, she stunned everyone, including an outraged Dr. Morales, as Mateo's chaotic heart monitor steadied, miraculously stabilizing him. An unconventional save. If you're captivated by stories of overlooked heroes and unexpected triumphs, we'd love for you to subscribe and join our global community. Your support truly helps us bring you more inspiring narratives, celebrating the Naledis of the world. Join us for more tales of extraordinary moments. The world narrowed for Naledi. The frantic murmurs of the surgeons, the desperate sobs of Mateo's mother, even the blaring rhythm of the deteriorating heart monitor faded into a dull roar. All that remained was Mateo, his life flickering, and the vivid, almost instinctual memory of a technique she'd performed countless times in places far grittier than this immaculate operating theater. Her hands, usually so steady with a syringe or a foredrip, now throbbed with an alien energy, an urgent, primal knowledge. She wasn't a nurse anymore, she was a conduit for a singular, desperate purpose. A cold, hard fear clutched at her throat. This was Olympus Medical Center, a fortress of rules and strict hierarchy. To step out of line here was not just a reprimand, it was professional suicide. She'd be fired, blacklisted, her quiet hopes for a new life shattered. The thought was a sharp, icy pang, but it was quickly eclipsed by a more profound, scorching terror, the image of Mateo's mother losing her son. That was a cost she couldn't bear to witness, not when she held a potential solution. A deep breath, a silent prayer, and then a shift. Something clicked inside Naledi. The modest, quiet girl who'd arrived at Olympus dissolved, replaced by a resolute woman forged in the crucible of impossible decisions. Her fear didn't vanish, but it transmuted into an unwavering focus, a steely resolve. Mateo was dying. Procedure could wait for the dead. Life could not. With a sudden, decisive movement, Naledi stepped forward, bypassing Dr. Pavlova who was frantically adjusting a drip. Her voice, usually soft, cut through the panicked air like a surgeon's scalpel. He's crashing. He needs a rapid decompression, now. The words, sharp and unexpected, caused the other doctors to freeze, their heads snapping towards her. Dr. Al-Hashemi's brow furrowed in disbelief, while Dr. Morales, his face already red with stress, took a step back, his mouth agape. Naledi didn't wait for permission. Her eyes, usually downcast, now locked onto Mateo with an almost unnerving intensity. Her hands, guided by an invisible force, moved with practiced precision. She didn't grab, she didn't fumble. She identified a precise point on Mateo's chest, a spot known intimately to those who patch bodies on the brink. Her knuckles whitened as she exerted a focused, powerful pressure, a technique not taught in any civilian nursing school, designed to create a momentary, life-saving window. It was crude, it was violent, and it was utterly against every sterile, deliberate protocol of Olympus. "What in God's name are you doing, Nurse Khumalo?" Dr. Morales roared, his voice cracking with outrage, already striding forward to physically restrain her. But Naledi didn't flinch. Her gaze remained fixed on Mateo, her face a mask of fierce concentration. A subtle, almost imperceptible tremor ran through Mateo's body. The erratic beeping of the heart monitor seemed to hesitate, then, miraculously, steadied slightly, pulling back from the precipice. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Naledi, her heart pounding, felt the shift. It was only a moment, a fragile, desperate reprieve, but it was enough. She had defied everything, risked everything, and in that fleeting second, she had bought Mateo a chance. The transformation was complete, the timid rookie was gone, replaced by a warrior who had simply refused to let a life slip away. Naledi stood rigid, her chest heaving, the raw effort of her intervention echoing in every muscle. Her hands, still hovering near Mateo's abdomen, trembled slightly, not from fear, but from the immense expenditure of will and physical force. The silence that descended upon the operating room was deeper than any before, broken only by the steady, almost defiant beep, 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 of the heart monitor. It was no longer a frantic, dying shriek, but a rhythm, fragile yet persistent, a heartbeat clinging to life. Dr. Morales, frozen mid-stride, his face mottled purple with a mixture of rage and disbelief, stared at the monitor. His initial roar had died in his throat, replaced by a strangled gasp. He had witnessed the impossible. A rookie nurse, with nothing but her bare hands and a terrifying conviction, had pulled a patient back from the brink of death. His eyes, though still burning with anger, held a flicker of something else, a primal, involuntary awe at the sheer audacity and inexplicable effectiveness of Naledi's action. Around the table, the elite surgeons of Olympus were equally paralyzed. Dr. Al-Hashemi, usually a bastion of cool control, had dropped his scalpel, the metallic clatter strangely muted in the sudden stillness. His brow was furrowed, not in his typical diagnostic concentration, but in profound, unsettling bewilderment. He had seen the precision, the sheer, focused power, and the immediate, undeniable result. It defied every textbook, every protocol, every fiber of his medical training. His skepticism warred with the undeniable evidence pulsing on the screen. Dr. Pavlova, initially an eager participant in the collective dismissal of Naledi, now gazed at her with wide, unblinking eyes. Her skepticism had evaporated, replaced by a chilling realization. This wasn't some desperate, flailing attempt, it was a calculated, brutal, yet impossibly effective maneuver. A shiver ran down her spine, a mix of fear at Naledi's transgression and a reluctant admiration for her courage. The air thrummed with unspoken questions. What was that? How did she do that? And more importantly, why did it work? The sterile, predictable sanctity of the operating theater had been shattered by a raw, almost primitive act of survival. Naledi slowly lowered her arms, her gaze sweeping over the astonished faces. There was no triumph in her eyes, only a deep, weary resolution. She had done what was necessary. Her mind, already calculating the next critical steps, knew this reprieve was fleeting. Mateo was stable, yes, but still bleeding internally. She had bought them precious minutes, not a full recovery. His vitals are improving, a junior resident finally stammered, his voice thin, breaking the heavy silence. He pointed a trembling finger at the monitor, as if needing to confirm what their own eyes reported. Al-Hashemi snapped out of his trance, forcing his surgeon's mask back into place over his bewilderment. He moved to Mateo's side, gloved hands checking for a pulse, pressing gently. "He's stable," he murmured, the words tasting foreign on his tongue. "Remarkably stable." His eyes darted to Naledi, a complex mix of professional disdain and grudging respect swirling within them. The crisis, the immediate crash, had been averted. But the true reckoning for Nurse Khumalo was just beginning. The days that followed Naledi's dismissal were shrouded in a strange, almost reverent quiet within Olympus Medical Center. Mateo Ramirez, the boy she had snatched from the precipice, continued his remarkable recovery. What began as a precarious stability soon blossomed into undeniable progress, each morning bringing a new, quiet victory. The internal bleeding, once a gushing torrent, had miraculously clotted, allowing the surgical team to perform a less invasive, ultimately successful procedure to repair the damage. The tension that had gripped the hospital like a vice slowly, gratefully, unwound. Within a week, Mateo was sitting up, pale but alert, asking for his favorite video games. Within 2, he was taking tentative steps down the corridor, a fragile ghost of his former self, yet undeniably on the path to full recovery. The hushed whispers among the staff were no longer about his imminent demise, but about the sheer impossibility of his survival. Dr. Al-Hashemi, a man whose medical texts were as thick as his ego, found himself repeatedly reviewing Mateo's charts, a furrow permanently etched between his brows. He couldn't reconcile the boy's complete turnaround with the chaos of that night, especially not with the unorthodox intervention that had preceded it. His colleagues, Dr. Pavlova and Dr. Morales included, shared his bewilderment, tempered now with a dawning awe. Naledi Khumalo was gone, a name spoken only in hushed tones, almost a medical taboo. Yet, her presence, or rather her absence, was a palpable force. Every doctor, every nurse who had witnessed that night, carried the memory of her defiance, her quiet intensity, and the miraculous aftermath. The junior residents, once quick to dismiss the rookie, now spoke of her with a mix of fear and admiration, referencing Khumalo's maneuver in hushed, speculative conversations. Even seasoned nurses, who had scoffed at her perceived insolence, now found themselves unconsciously tracing the precise spot on Mateo's chest where her hands had rested, a silent testament to the impossible. There was no formal validation, no public apology for Naledi's firing, not yet. But in the quiet exchanges, the shared glances, the universal relief that washed over the department each time Mateo showed another sign of improvement, her expertise was undeniably acknowledged. It was a validation earned not through words, but through Mateo's vibrant, continuing life. He was a living, breathing monument to her extraordinary courage and skill. The hospital, bound by its rigid protocols, had exiled her, but the heart of its medical staff, witnessing Mateo's triumph, couldn't help but respect the ghost of the nurse who had dared to break all the rules to save a life. It left an indelible mark, a quiet revolution in the understanding of what true heroism in medicine could be. Mateo's recovery continued its improbable trajectory, a beacon of life in the sterile halls. His laughter, still a little weak but increasingly genuine, echoed through the pediatric ward, a daily reminder of the near-fatal night. The medical staff, though relieved, still harbored a quiet bewilderment. Dr. Al-Hashemi had pored over the case notes, consulted colleagues, even scoured obscure medical journals, but the precise nature of Naledi's intervention remained an enigma. It defied textbook explanation, a phantom force that had reset the clock on Mateo's failing heart. Dr. Morales, though outwardly maintaining his stoic demeanor, carried the weight of his decision like a stone in his gut. The silence where Naledi's quiet, observant presence used to be was louder than any reprimand. It was a Tuesday afternoon, a week after Naledi's dismissal, when an unexpected visitor arrived at the Olympus Medical Center's reception. He was a man in an impeccably pressed Navy uniform, his bearing authoritative yet calm. He introduced himself as Commander Davies, and his request was as precise as it was unusual. "I'm looking for a nurse Naledi Khumalo. We have reason to believe she may have served with distinction." The receptionist, flustered, directed him to Dr. Morales' office, the head of nursing. Morales, already tense from a day of auditing supply requisitions, looked up sharply. "Nurse Khumalo was recently let go," he stated, his voice tight with a mixture of defensiveness and underlying regret. Commander Davies' brow furrowed. "Let go? That's unexpected. Our intelligence suggests she's an invaluable asset." Specifically regarding a recent incident involving a young patient, Mateo Ramirez. The mention of Mateo's name sent a jolt through Morales. He exchanged a quick, meaningful glance with Dr. Pavlova, who had just entered the office. The pieces began to click into place, the unconventional technique, the rumors of battlefield precision, Naledi's almost unnerving calm under pressure. Commander Davies, sensing their confusion, clarified. "We've been tracking a unique signature, a non-invasive stabilization technique previously only documented in highly specialized combat medicine. When we heard about the miraculous save here, and a nurse Khumalo involved, we had to investigate." He pulled out a slim file, not filled with certifications, but with commendations. Nurse Khumalo served in a clandestine field medical unit. Her expertise wasn't just about applying techniques, it was about inventing solutions in impossible situations, operating with minimal resources under extreme duress. She was known for her unparalleled ability to assess and stabilize internal trauma without surgery when conventional means were impossible. Her quiet demeanor, her absolute focus, those aren't just personality traits, they were forged in environments where a second's hesitation meant a life lost. He paused, looking directly at Morales and Pavlova. "She never sought recognition. She simply saved lives." The silence in the room was heavy, thick with revelations and unspoken shame. Dr. Morales felt a cold dread mix with a burning admiration. He hadn't just fired a rule-breaker, he had dismissed a genuine hero, one whose quiet strength and profound capabilities far outstripped the rigid boundaries of Olympus's protocols. Dr. Pavlova, initially skeptical, now saw Naledi's humble, almost invisible presence in a new light. Her perceived modesty wasn't shyness, it was the deep, quiet confidence of someone who had seen the worst of humanity and responded with the best of her skill. Naledi's heroism wasn't just validated, it was amplified, revealing a depth of character and experience that rendered the hospital's initial judgment not just wrong, but profoundly short-sighted. The ghost of the nurse now had a name, a history, and an undeniable aura of quiet greatness. Her transformation, though unseen by Naledi herself, was profoundly felt by those left to grapple with their profound misjudgment. The hospital's formal apology was delivered with a weight that spoke volumes of its newfound humility. Dr. Santiago Morales, his face etched with a mixture of remorse and respect, personally extended Naledi's reinstatement offer. He spoke not of procedure or protocol, but of courage, invaluable skill, and a profound misjudgment. "Nurse Khumalo," he began, his voice surprisingly soft, "we were blind. We saw rules, not the extraordinary human being behind them. Olympus Medical Center needs your unique talents, and we are profoundly sorry for our failure to recognize them sooner." His apology felt deeply personal, a testament to his own internal reckoning. Dr. Kazim Al-Hashemi, a man known for his unshakable belief in established surgical dogma, approached Naledi separately. The rigid lines around his eyes seemed softer, his customary sternness replaced by a contemplative air. "Naledi," he said, using her first name, a rare gesture from the chief surgeon, "your intervention on Mateo, it forced me to confront the limits of what I thought I knew. I have spent decades perfecting techniques, but you showed me there are depths of medical knowledge, born of different fires, that our elite institutions have perhaps overlooked. Your courage saved a life, and your actions have changed how I will approach medicine from this day forward. Thank you." It was more than an admission of error, it was an acknowledgement of a paradigm shift, a testament to his capacity for growth. He recognized that true leadership sometimes meant learning from the most unexpected teachers. Naledi returned to Olympus, not as the timid rookie, but as an integral, respected member of the team. Her quiet demeanor remained, but it was now imbued with an unshakable confidence, a calm authority born of validated experience. She no longer felt the need to hide her past, it was a part of her, a source of strength that had saved a life and, in doing so, illuminated her own path. She found a new mentor in Dr. Al-Hashemi, who occasionally sought her insights, pushing the boundaries of conventional approaches. Dr. Pavlova, too, became a staunch ally, often championing Naledi's innovative thinking in team discussions. Mateo Ramirez, fully recovered, was a living testament to Naledi's intervention, a constant reminder to the hospital that true healing sometimes lay beyond the rulebook. His infectious laughter echoed through the halls, a melody of hope that had almost been silenced. Naledi's story became a quiet legend within Olympus, a powerful narrative about the dangers of prejudice and the profound rewards of open-mindedness. It wasn't just about a nurse getting her job back, it was about an entire institution learning to value the unseen, the unorthodox, and the uniquely human. Naledi Khumalo, once a hidden gem, now shone brightly, her authentic self a beacon of how courage, when combined with compassion and unconventional skill, could not only save lives but also transform hearts, inspiring a lasting legacy of growth and hope for everyone at Olympus Medical Center. Naledi's journey powerfully reminds us that courage, compassion, and trusting our instincts can spark incredible transformation and hope, proving heroism often resides in unexpected places. What resonated most with you from her remarkable story? If this tale touched your heart, we invite you to join our growing global community. Your subscription helps us create more compelling and meaningful stories like Naledi's, sharing narratives that celebrate the extraordinary in everyday heroes. Thank you deeply for watching and for being such a valued part of our journey together.